Hey everyone, it's the Angry Honey Badger, and it is time for another episode of League Talks. If you have a question for a future episode of League Talks, you can send me a private message on YouTube labeling the subject as League Talks and asking me your question there. Today we have another game in the background from an all-random, all-mid game from a stream not too long ago, so go ahead and enjoy that happening in the background while we answer some of your questions. First question that I have today is coming in from Panda Gaming asking, who do you think is the best ranged AD carry? This is an okay question, but kind of more of an opinion specifically. Now, I know a lot of people are going to argue this, but I think their question is geared towards who is not as complicated to play. And I think probably two of the best non-complicated ones are probably Misfortune and Graves. I'd say those two aren't really that complicated when it comes to their style and how good they are. I do think Misfortune's really strong right now. I usually don't have any problems playing her. Yesterday I played 3 ranked games with her and won all 3 of them really easily. So not because it was specifically my lane carrying, but my lane had no problems and we were getting plenty of kills. So I think Misfortune's pretty easy. I think if you want to jump skill level up just a tiny bit, I think Ezreal and Corki can be good, but I think the Corki one's kind of a coin flip a little bit because, I don't know, I don't really like Corki's kit that much. I think it's good, he's not as fun to play. And then the other one that I would say in there that is pretty good, but has a tougher early game sometimes is Vayne. So I'd say those are some of the top carries. It really does come down to your playstyle. All the carries are pretty, they're all pretty good, really. It comes down to a playstyle and a preference. Like, I don't really like playing Corki. I just don't really like his kit. I don't really like playing Draven because I don't really like his kit either. They're still good characters and they're still strong. I just personally don't like playing them. I play Ezreal and Misfortune and Vayne a lot. And those are kind of my main 3 when I'm playing as an AD carry. So those are kind of ones that I focus on. My next question is coming in from Wolfboy959 asking, does the appearance of a champion affect whether or not you buy them? No, it really doesn't. I don't really care what the champions look like specifically. I don't know, if that's something that affects you, then don't buy them, I guess. But, there's a few that, yeah, I don't think they're as cool looking, but I've still bought them because I like them. So, if it came down to the appearance of Trundle, Trundle's a troll who looks hideous, but I think he's awesome. So, no. And I wouldn't say the effect, or the appearance of a champion does not affect my decision on whether or not I'm going to buy them. My next question comes in from Grinding Gears TV. He asks, I do a lot of jungling, but my friend told me that Lee Sin cannot top lane because of Season 2. Do you think that this is true? Or is it still true now with it being Season 3? Lee Sin's one of those champions who can actually play just about any lane he wants to because of the way he is and how kind of, I don't want to say specifically broken his kit is, but how he can just basically do whatever he wants because he's Lee Sin. Lee Sin can tank, Lee Sin can AD carry as in like melee AD carry. He can go bruiser. I've seen a few AP Lee Sins. Doesn't really work that amazingly, but I guess he could try it if he wanted to. I don't recommend it. But he can really do whatever he wants. He can actually support fairly well because he can shield over to people and kind of do some crowd control stuff. So he can kind of do a lot of weird roles. So yes, he can play any lane, to be completely honest. I've seen him mid in some ranked stuff by some of the pro teams. So he's just interesting because he's kind of hard to kill. He has good sustain. He does decent damage. I personally don't enjoy playing Lee Sin. I just don't really like playing him that much. I don't know. There's a few champions, as you guys have probably found out or finding out, that I just don't enjoy playing them as much as other champions. Lee Sin's one of them. He's just, I don't know, he's just not that appealing to me. But, yeah, no, he can play in any lane. So, no, your friend's not right. He can top lane perfectly fine. In fact, the 2 best places for him, in my opinion, are top and jungle. So, I like him in the jungle. He's a good ganker and a very good early ganker if you play him really well. But Lee Sin does take a little bit of skill to get down to play him perfectly. So, if you're kind of new, I would not really play Lee Sin right away. My next question comes in. They're asking me, how do you earn IP when you're playing a match? Well, IP, you just gain it by playing, really. I believe the IP that you gain is affected on the length of the match and whether or not you win. There's really no real way to get IP any faster unless you have IP boosts or it's your first win of your day. So you're not gonna really get more for just like what's the fastest game mode or how do you get the most IP. It's just you gotta play a lot. You gotta play more and you gotta win. So obviously winning's good, and if the game's longer you'll get more IP, but that's just them compensating for games that are shorter, for games that are longer. Because if you're in a game that's an hour long and you get 100 IP, and then you're in a game that's 30 minutes long and you get 50 IP, I mean, they're just compensating because you could have played probably 2 30-minute games and got, you know, that certain amount of IP. So it's basically only based off of how long the game is and whether or not you win or lose. So, and then also the main thing is too, if you really want to get IP the fastest way without buying boosts or anything, just make sure you always play 1 game a day and get your win of the day boost, because that's going to be an easy way to pick up 300 IP fairly easily, or 200 to 300. My next question today comes in asking me, do you think Blade of the Ruined King is a must-get on an 80 carry soon in the game or late game? I don't really think it's a must-get. It is a good item if they are extremely tanky, since it does do percentage damage. It is basically your replacement for the Blood Razor. So I'd say if they have an extremely health-driven team, or very tanky based off of health team, it's a good item to pick up. It is nice that it does have some built-in lifesteal. So if they're running a team with, like, oh, who knows, like a Sejuani in the jungle, and then a Olaf top who's stacking health, and then maybe their mid is actually getting a decent amount of health, then it's probably a good idea to consider picking this item up so you can just deal that extra percentage damage. I wouldn't say it's always necessary all the time just to get as an item. I think it's more situational, but it is a good item and it's something to consider. It also does have a really, really good passive on it, so this is another thing you might want to think about if you're getting into 1v1s of any kind, or something like that. It's a really good item on some of those quick attacking bruisers. It's another one of those decent ones I'd consider on them. But as for just soon or late, it's a better late game item most of the time. But it does work alright pretty soon on some champions. I think I build it in the middle of my build when I'm playing Jarvan, but it works really well on him. So there's a few different ways you can do it, but it is a good item to consider only if they're building a lot of health. My next question comes in asking me the Georgian flag behind you. Are you Georgian? As some of you have noticed in some of my streams, or if you head over to my other channel where I do my vlog and play a few other games on and off on Badger and Friends, there is a Georgian flag behind me in my room. But before it was a Georgian flag, it was a Templar Crusader flag from Assassin's Creed. The Templars had used it back, oh, I don't know, 700 years ago. Maybe not quite that long ago, but they used it somewhere around 600, 500 years ago, and I believe the country of Georgia then used it. Yes, Georgia is a country for any of you Americans who don't know that. Not the state, Georgia. This is different. Some people were not understanding that one time in a stream as well. But no, I do understand that it is their flag, and that's what they use now, but that's not the reason why I have it behind me. I got it because Assassin's Creed back in the day. But I'm probably going to take it down soon because it confuses everyone. So, yeah, I'll probably put some other stuff up behind me eventually, because I've been meaning to move some posters around in my room too. But yeah, yes, it is a Georgian flag. No, I'm not Georgian. Sorry to disappoint. If you were hoping I was, I'm not. But yeah, that's where the flag's from, and that's why I have it there, and that is why it's gonna probably be removed, because it confuses everyone. My next question comes in from Enderlance asking, I would like to ask you, how does one counter a Kali besides playing extremely tanky champions or playing champions with crowd control? Well, I would say the best way to counter a Kali, most of the problems that focus around a Kali is obviously her massive damage. So yes, it obviously helps to counter her by playing tankier champions who deal damage, and crowd control is obviously very, very nice, but crowd control really counters just about everybody because that's what it does. It's crowd control. So the other ways I would say the best way to counter her is everyone always starts to lose vision on her when she goes into her little invisible cloaking dance of dusty shadow nonsense. So the best way to get rid of this is to either pick up an Oracles on yourself, which can be a little more expensive than what you probably want to do. That's what the tanks on your team should be doing when the game starts to go towards late game, and she's kind of getting stuck in the middle of team fights, and she disappears because she goes into her shroud. What you need to do is get your tanks to get Oracles, but if you're still having problems with her in lane and you need something to kind of negate all of that while you're in lane, or if she's going to duck into that, is make sure you buy one pink ward and put it in the middle of your lane where you're usually fighting, or somewhere where you'll be able to keep vision on her. Because when she goes to duck into that, to just wait for her cooldowns and kind of disappear and get rid of your damage so you can't hit her, you'll still have vision on her, and you'll still be able to blow her up. It's amazing when they can't figure out that you have a ward in the lane and you can see them. And it's just another great way to also do that in case there's any stealths on their team. Like, whenever you're playing as anyone in your lane, they have stealths ganking, you should probably have a pink ward sitting in the middle of your lane so you can always see when they're going to come up or go away. We do this all the time, too, with Twitch, because Twitch will go into his cloak, he'll run into a bush, run out, and you won't be able to see him. Just get a pink ward. You'll see him the whole time, and you can start hitting him, and it's almost like they don't know how to react right away. Like, how are they hitting me? I don't know if they can see me. And you'll deal damage before they even react to it most of the time. So that's probably the best way to counter it. You just got to pick up pink wards, put them in the lane, and then when she tries to disappear, which is usually the biggest problem, you just got to make sure that you do that to them. The other way I would consider negating some of her damage is just building some magic resist. I mean, you can't always stick to a build in a specific order. You should play to a way that you can kind of go towards the build you want, but you need to maybe counter in some items that are going to help you negate their damage. Sometimes when I go top, when I'm laning against like a Yorick, instead of going straight for my damage early, I'll start to get tanky and get some armor so I can negate his damage in 1v1s then, and I don't have to worry about taking damage since he can spawn his little ghouls so fast. So sometimes you need to counter and change your build up to counter champions that way too. So don't always stick specifically to the way one build does its build in a specific order. It's never always the same. My next question comes in from 3 Dreams with a bunch of S's on the end of it, and they're asking me, how do you learn or train skill shots? Ezreal's Q and W aren't a problem. I play with Smartcast, but especially Karthus's Q and all of that. His skill shot, if is one of the hardest. This is a little hard to read because they say that they are from Germany, so maybe the English is not translated perfectly. Blitzcrank's grab isn't easy either, so do you have any tips to play these champions successfully? I will say probably the biggest thing with skill shots is you just gotta practice them. Another thing that you might want to consider is, I think when I see people who are bad with skill shots, is because they're not compensating for enemies that are moving or on the run. And I see this often when people put down like abilities in an area where they were standing, but they're going to be moving because you should be moving in lane to avoid skill shots. Some people just naturally avoid skill shots too because they kind of know how it's going to work. It's people who've played for a longer period of time. I do this a lot in some of my videos, and like I avoid skill shots, and then I see in the comments people are like, wow, they were bad. Sometimes they're not amazing, but sometimes it's just because I'm dodging all of their abilities because I understand how they want to cast them on me, so I do the opposite. So sometimes when I'm playing in lane as bottom, I've been against good Blitzcranks, but I've negated them being able to really grab me because I always keep a minion in between us, or I always make sure I move out of the way. I always juke and try to get away from any of their skill shots like that. So the way you counter that is just get better at understanding what that character's trying to do. Watch early to see if they're even wondering if they need to keep a minion between you if you're Blitzcrank, and you can grab them. So it just kind of comes down to whether or not you will learn faster than they will learn how to either negate the skill shot, or if you can learn how to make it successfully. But like I said, overall, it just kind of comes down to just learning it and keep trying it over and over and over. It's just a lot of practice most of the time. So a few champions that can be tough. Ezreal can for some people. I don't think his skill shots are really too horrible. Some people have a handful of trouble with Lux and her bind, so that can be a little bit difficult. And then, what's another one I see? The Blitzcrank grab is, I don't know, some people are really good with it, and some people are really bad with it. And then I think Cho'Gath's knockup's kind of another funny one to place and wait for the delay on it. Some people always miss that. So, it's just some of these things you gotta think about. If you gotta, like, maybe lead your target just a little bit and just kind of compensate a little bit for what they might do. Also, some of the people who get tricky with their skill shots and use them a little bit late. Instead of running into a fight immediately and bandage tossing, like with a Mumu, then you can just maybe run at them. If they flash and then that's all they've done, then you can bandage toss because they're not going to flash to miss your bandage toss. So sometimes you can kind of bait out the skill shot, make them use abilities without even using yours first. So that's another thing you'll get people to do. You can just kind of trick them, just run at them with Blitzcrank like you're going to grab them. Maybe they'll flash, and then flash will be down, and then the next time you run at them a few seconds later, then you can grab them. So it's just these little things to consider. It all takes time to learn, but overall, like I said, just lots of practice makes it a lot easier to learn all of these things. That's pretty much going to be today for League Talks. Covered a handful of things, but like I said, if you have any questions for a future episode, you send me a private message on YouTube labeling the subject as League Talks, and I will answer them hopefully in the next episode. Other than that, guys, I'll just see all of you later.